कितना है बदनसीब सफर दफन के लिए, 2 गज जमीन भी नहीं मिली कुए यार में, लगता नहीं है दिल मेरा।
For more than a century, the last Mughal emperor was almost forgotten. But a chance finding his grave helped resurrect the legacy of a man revered as a Sufi saint and one of the finest poets in Urdu language. Zafar's unassuming tomb in a quiet avenue in Yangon is a distressing and silent reminder of one of the most tumultuous periods of Indian history. The black large gates welcomes you to the Dargah. The main gate has the king's name engraved in metal, Dargah of Bahadur Shah Zafar, Emperor of India 1837 to 1857. The compound is also under the surveillance of CCTV for security reasons. Though his rule could not compare with that of illustrious ancestors like Akbar or Aurangzeb, he became the rallying point for the failed Indian uprising of 1857 when soldiers from undivided India rose against the British East India Company, called the Sepoy Mutiny. After they lost, the emperor was not sentenced to death but exiled to Rangoon, Burma, now called Yangon in Myanmar. His wife Zeenat Mahal and some of the remaining members of the family accompanied him. When you enter to the compound, on the left hand side you would see a large portrait of the king. The building follows the traditional mosque architecture. Under this blue sky sleeps the last emperor of India. Mirza Abu Zafar Sirajuddin Muhammad Bahadur Shah Zafar died at the age of 87 in 1862. With his death, one of the world's greatest dynasties, Mughal dynasty, came to an end. That very day, his British captors buried him in an unmarked grave in a compound near famous Shadagon Pagoda in Yangon. The ceremony was attended by his 2 children and their servants, but not Zafar's wife, Zeenat Mahal. It was also said that his death did not have any effect on the people of Rangoon except for some followers. The doors are open to the large prayer hall in the mausoleum, and on the left side of the prayer hall there is a room called Red Fort where the king is sleeping along with his wife and his son. Covered in silk with sweet smelling petals, the mausoleum of India's largest Mughal emperor is a place of pilgrimage for Indians, Muslims and others interested in the history of British Raj. Inside the Red Fort room, we can find the grave of great king and his wife along with his son. Zafar's wife Zeenat Mahal and his son Mirza Jawan Bakht has been buried here along with the king. Daily prayers and flowers are offered by the pilgrimage visitors from India and any other part of the country. The daily rituals are conducted by the Muslim community in Yangon. Zafar's wife, Zeenat Mahal, died in 1882, approximately 20 years after his death. When she died, the location of Zafar's grave had already been forgotten and could not be located. So, she was buried in a roughly similar position near a tree where his grave was assumed to be. Zafar's son Mirza Jawan Bakht died 2 years later and was buried at the same site. In 1903, a group of visitors came from India to pay tribute to Zafar at his burial place. But at that time, Even the exact location of Zenith Mahal's grave had been forgotten, though some local guides pointed out the site of a withered lotus tree. In 1905, the Muslim of Rangoon protested and demanded that there should be some measures to demarcate Zafar's grave, because as a man or as a king, Bahadur Shah was not to be admired, but he should be remembered. This request was forwarded by the British to Calcutta, and the reply was that it was inappropriate for the government to construct anything over the remains of Zafar as tomb, which might become a place of pilgrimage. This was followed by demonstrations and a long series of newspaper articles, by which the British agreed in 1907 to erect a single stone slab in which it was engraved, Bahadur Shah, ex-king of Delhi, died at Rangoon November 7, 1862 and was buried near this spot. In February 1991, workers who were digging for a drain discovered a brick-lined tomb 6 feet under the ground. On top, it was an inscription, and soon the body's identity was found. It was of the king. After a few years, a dargah or an Islamic shrine was built, which was inaugurated on 15 December 1994. Zafar is respected as an emperor saint, and hence this shrine has become an important place for pilgrimage by Muslims. For years, this grave was considered to be the place where king was buried, and when you come out of Red Fort room towards your left side, we can see an open underground area. This is the discovery which is made in 1991, which later confirmed to be the original graveyard of great king. 6 feet down from the ground, here sleeps the last Mughal emperor of India. Inside this two-story mausoleum are separate prayer rooms for men and women. The walls are adorned with engraved marble plaques. Defeated, demoralized, and humiliated, it was an inglorious end for a man whose Mughal ancestors had ruled a vast territory including modern-day India, Pakistan, large part of Afghanistan, and Bangladesh over 300 years. If you are visiting the mausoleum, please be aware that you will be in the holy Islamic ground, so you need to be dressed decently. Finding Zafar's Dargah at 6 Zivaka Street near U Visara Road in Dagon Township, south from the Shodogan Pagoda in Yangon, isn't difficult, and definitely a worthwhile excursion, especially on the weekends. The Dargah is often visited by politicians and dignitaries from South Asia. In a strange irony, having suffered defeat in the Third Anglo-Burmese War, the last king of Burma, Thibaw, was exiled 27 years later in the opposite direction from Burma to Ratnagiri in India. He died in Ratnagiri in 1916.